Have you ever felt like you're running out of time to get married? Maybe you're in your 30s or 40s and it seems like everyone around you is getting married, having kids, and living the life you've been praying for. You've been waiting for on God, but the truth is you're frustrated, maybe even questioning, God, have you forgotten me? And sometimes it gets frustrating. You find that those whom you have not achieved much in life, and even younger than you, seem to be all getting married and having stable families. If that resonates with you, I want you to stay with me today because we are diving into this topic so close to my heart. Trusting God's perfect timing for marriage, because I was also part of this. I think I felt the same way before I got married. I know that waiting can be hard, and sometimes it feels like everyone is moving forward while you are stuck in the same place. But here's the good news: God hasn't forgotten you. His timing is perfect, and He has a plan for your life, including your marriage. But don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that we delay to get married. I believe as well that we should get married in the earliest opportunity possible when we are ready in God's timing, so that we finish all these issues of family earlier, then we can raise our children when we are still strong. So I'm advocating for that. But again, if you find yourself that you've gone probably beyond the time that you are thinking of, or the expectations of the society, or you feel like you're depressed about this, I want to give you hope that God's timing is the best. By the end of this video, you'll understand why waiting on God's timing is the best decision you can make, how to embrace the waiting season with faith, and how to prepare yourself for the right person when God says it's now. Let's start with the truth from the scripture in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11. It says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. This verse is very key, especially in the waiting season. It doesn't say everything is beautiful immediately. It doesn't say it happens in our timetable. It says everything is beautiful in its time, and that is God's time. I know that waiting can feel like you're stuck, like you're missing out. But what if I told you that this waiting season is one of the most important seasons of your life? What if God is using this time to prepare you, to grow you spiritually, to make sure that when you enter marriage, it's not just any marriage, but a marriage that glorifies Him and brings you joy. Probably that's the reason why you're still waiting. God has not allowed you to be, if you truly trust in Him. Let's talk about why God's timing is perfect. You see, we live in a culture that pressures us to follow a certain timeline. Maybe get married by 30, by 25, or whichever age. Graduate, get married, and have kids, all by a certain age. But God doesn't work according to the world's timelines. He's not in a rush, and neither should you be. Isaiah 55, verse 8 to 9 reminds us that, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. God's plan for your marriage is bigger and better than anything you can imagine. But it's not going to happen on his it's just going to happen on his schedule and not yours. You see, if you rush ahead of God, you might end up in a marriage that isn't right for you. You might settle for someone who isn't aligned with your purpose, your values, and everything that you believe in. Yeah. He wants you to have a marriage that reflects His love, His grace, and His godliness, His goodness. Sorry. So I want to challenge you to shift your perspective. Instead of asking, why hasn't it happened yet? Why has it not happened yet? Start asking, God, what are you preparing me for during this time? Because I promise you, God is always preparing you for something greater. What's the danger of rushing ahead of God? I've seen it happen too many times. People get tired of waiting, they feel pressured by society or family, and they settle for a relationship that isn't God's best for them. I've seen people who've been Christians and active Christians all the day, but when it comes to this time of marriage, they feel like God is delaying and they move out of church. They moved out of their Christianity and now they practice a totally different lifestyle so that they want to rush into a decision before God's time. And you mess up your life. Marriages, rushed marriages that are not godly have messed up people's lives. You might rush to get there, but in the next few months you are out of it. So don't just do it because of the pressures. Yeah. Rushing into marriage outside of God's timing can lead to a lifetime of regret. You might marry someone who looks good on paper, beautiful or handsome, but isn't spiritually aligned with you. Or you might rush into a relationship simply because you're afraid of being alone. But what if waiting just a little longer meant finding the person who is perfectly suited for you? Someone who God has prepared just for you. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." Your plans might look good, but if they're not aligned with God's purpose, they will not bring you the peace and fulfillment you're searching for. Ask those people who hurried into this and maybe did not involve God. People who have even changing their faith for the sake of this, and then they end up messing up. And let me tell you something, God's purpose is always worth waiting for. Let's shift gears and talk about how to embrace the waiting season. I know it's hard. I know it feels like you're being left behind. But what if I told you that this season of waiting is one of the most valuable seasons of your life? Yeah. Isaiah 40 verse 31 says that, "But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Waiting on God's passive isn't passive. It is active. It's a time to grow, time to prepare, to strengthen your relationship with Christ. If there's something that you can do right now, that you're the waiting period, is strengthening your relationship with Christ. And we learned in a previous video that we posted before how spirituality is utterly important and how to go about it. Maybe you can check for the previous videos on spirituality and how to grow yourself. This is the time to grow yourself spiritually and strengthen your relationship with Christ. God uses the waiting season to prepare you for the blessing that's coming. If you're single right now, God is not wasting this time. He's using it to build your character, to heal your heart from past hurts, to prepare you emotionally, spiritually, and even financially for the marriage He has in store for you. So instead of seeing this waiting season as a burden, start seeing it as a blessing. This is your time to focus on your relationship with God, to grow in your faith, and to become the person you need to be before you step into marriage. Here's another important truth. The person God has for you is also being prepared. Just like you're in a waiting season, so they are. God is working on their hearts, their character, their faith, so that when you do come together, you're ready for that journey ahead. So while you're waiting, ask yourself, am I preparing for the person God has for me? How prepared am I? Are you becoming the kind of spouse you want to attract? Are you cultivating spiritual maturity, emotional health, and flexibility? Are you healing from past relationships so you can enter your future marriage whole and ready to give yourself fully? Let me share something powerful from Psalms chapter 37 verse 4. "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." When you focus on God, when your heart is fully aligned with His, He will give you the desires of your heart. But here's the key. God is not just going to give you what you want. He's going to give you what is best for you, not what you want. And sometimes what's best for you takes time. Yeah. Remember how you go to these four-star hotels and you order for food? It doesn't just bring any type of food. It takes time. You have to wait for it. But if you go to these cheap places, then it's prepared very fast. So I believe if you are in that waiting season, believe that God is preparing the best for you so long as you're aligned with Him. So how do we trust God through this frustration that may come in? I get it. Waiting can be frustrating. Maybe you've had moments where you thought, this is it, but it didn't work out. Maybe you've experienced heartbreak or disappointment, and now you're wondering, God, when is it going to be my turn? First, I want to remind you that God sees you. He knows your heart, your desires, and your longing for a godly marriage. But more than that, He knows what's best for you, even when it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes God delays our desires because He's protecting us from something that's not for us. Other times, He's refining us, preparing us for something far greater than we could imagine. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6 says that trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Trust is key. Even when you don't understand, trust that God's plan is unfolding in ways you cannot see. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're questioning God's timing, I want to encourage you to trust God. His plan is always good. His timing is always perfect. But that is only if you're in alignment with Him. So here's what I want you to take away today, that God's timing is perfect. He hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't passed you. If you're in a season of waiting, know that God is using this time to prepare you for the marriage He has for you. So instead of rushing, instead of settling, I want to encourage you to trust God. Trust His timing. Trust His process. And while you're waiting, focus on becoming the person He's called you to be. If today's message resonated with you and you want to learn more about how to prepare for a Christ-centered marriage, I invite you to get a copy of Ready for Marriage. It's filled with biblical wisdom and practical steps to help you embrace this season of waiting and prepare for the future God has in store for you. Remember, waiting isn't wasted. God is working in your waiting, and when the time is right, everything will fall into place. Let's trust Him together. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to see how God works in your life and in your future marriage. And God bless you.